Hello, and welcome to the Say It Out Loud podcast. I am your host, Christine Daynard, and the goal of this podcast is to encourage you to live your best and most authentic life by digging deeper and finding connection through vulnerability. I believe we have been taught that vulnerability is a weakness, when in fact, it is our superpower. In this space, I will share personal stories and conversations with others so you can be empowered by their strength and inspired to take action in your own life. Thank you so much for being here. Now let's get started.
I'm here because of who I am, actually, not because of what I do.
Yeah, well, and
you
I
have
love
a beautiful
that.
Smile. So,
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So do you.
Thanks.
This is wonderful. Well, and if you haven't guessed it yet, we're already chatting. We've actually been chatting for a while, but you are back at the podcast of the Say It Out Loud podcast, and I'm here with this most lovely guest. And you know what I think is the coolest thing about doing this work and doing this, hosting this podcast, is that I kind of put a call out into the world and I let it be. I let people apply to come and chat with me. And I trust that those that are coming to me are here with good intentions. And then I meet these most magical people who walk in my front door.
Aww.
And people say to me all the time, they're like, oh my God, you let people in your house? Like, that's like a safe, sacred space. And I'm like, actually, it's just a space of love. It's a space to welcome people. And if I attracted some crazy weirdo, well then,
yeah,
I think my instincts and my intuition is going to let me know about that. So far, that hasn't happened, knock on wood. But I really just believe that when we put what we want out there and we put our energy out there, we attract like energy. And I could already feel that from the moment you walked in the door, Sonia. This lady is so fabulous and authentic and so herself. And she's doing some really beautiful work in the world. And I'm so excited to chat with her and have this conversation with you. So Sonia Palleck, I'm going to just say your name. Yes. Sonia is here, I think from London. Is that right?
Yes,
You come from all the way. She came all the way from London to sit at Sunshine Island to have this conversation. Sonia, would you do our guests a favor and just tell them a little bit about you and what drew you to come and have this conversation?
I absolutely will. First of all, let me thank you, Christine, for opening your front door for me, for welcoming me into this beautiful little kitchen studio. It is a place of love. It is a sacred space, and the Sunshine Island is feeling very welcoming. So I'm super happy to be here. I am a mom, an orthodontist, an author, and what I would say most importantly in my life and what's going on is love advocate. I advocate for love in every area of my life, and I feel like that's what I am becoming more and more every day. I sort of will always be, with the focus of my energy there, like to be love, because that's what we are. And I think that there's a lot of ways to bring that message to the world, and just being our true selves. So I'm like you, whatever lands sort of on my feed, on my page, it shows up because one, they're probably spying on us, and that's what, I'm speaking
Totally.
to love. And so something about authentic love is popping up, and that's what I welcome. So for sure, send me all the stuff. But when I saw your podcast with Kim Bassler and Bloom, your beautiful, event that you guys are organizing, I looked into that, and then I listened to the podcast that you two had, and it felt so real to me. Just that emotion, the unfettered, talk. I love that. I'm very drawn to that. And I just, click, I saw apply here. For sure, that's me. Let's go. I want to chat to someone that wants to talk about love, about authenticity, about the world, about humans, because I find that we are definitely the most interesting thing to me right now.
I love that. It's so funny because I often say, the least interesting thing about us is what we do for a living. It's like, it might be how we make money in the world, but it isn't who we are,
No.
Often it's not who we are. And I just love that, we're so many things. And, I only know bits and pieces of your story because we don't know each other very well.
No.
Basically, you're by the definition a stranger to me, but I don't feel like you're a stranger at all. I felt like I said, as soon as you walked in this space, you came in here, I felt like I've met like a soul sister. Like I feel like I've known you in, I don't know if it's a past life or in some other version of our lives I've known, and there's this connection between us. So I'm so grateful that you're here to talk about whatever we're going to talk about and just have this conversation. And I feel like it's so important that we talk in the world about the things that are hard. We talk about the things that are real, because for so long we have been suppressed out of talking about what's honest often real. You know, we have shame around what has happened to us, or we have guilt around what's happened to us, or what's, you know, what's gone on. And I think it's really important to just share more good, right? I always talk about looking for the good, but having these conversations, because most people don't have conversations like this. And I'd love to be a part of what is pivotal in that shift, right? And I believe that you're one of these people as well. And, you know, I would say it got started with this book, but I feel like it got started a whole lot earlier than that. So I would love to know from you, like, you know, you've been rolling around in life for a while, just like me, right? We've tried different things. We've done different things. And at the very beginning, you kind of listed off a few things about you, that you're a mom, that you're an orthodontist, and that you're an author, and that you're a love advocate. So I would be curious to know what in you shifted to have you write this book. Like, I know that's a big question, and maybe we should
it was sort of legitimately like, and so easy to tell that shift. It wasn't like I had ever planned that shift. That shift happened March 1st, 2020.
Oh.
I was lying in bed. It was around 4 a.m. I usually get up at 5 to get ready for work. I had thought about my life and all of the healing that I had gone through. I had basically just, it was like Dante's Inferno. I mean, my entire life burned to the ground, and I had lost everything I owned. I went through a painful divorce. My daughter at the time wasn't speaking to me. She wouldn't live with me, and my parents had passed. My grandmother died. Like, everybody and everything just seemed to vanish. And my life didn't resemble anything. It was just like I was just floating completely alone, and I was trying to make sense of it. And I had gone through every type of healing journey I could get my hands on, anything. And I was meditating a lot. And I went through some big epiphanies, you know, during that time that just led me to see what I was. I mean, it's sort of like you have to sit still in your thoughts and be with your feelings. And where I am a Scorpio, and true to my nature, is I was drawn to the dark side. You know, the terror and the fear that would grip me at night, it was like at some point I just became defiant to it. And I was like, bring it on. I'm going to get to the bottom of you. I'm going to go right into it. Almost like the buffalo that don't like the rain. And you know, they go at the storm. When the storm is coming, they go at it because the quickest way is through. And I thought, no, I'm getting through this. I'm not staying here. I'm going to get through it. And I did. And when I did, I saw that I was love. And then I could see you. And then I could see everybody in a way that I had never seen another human being. I was incapable of seeing others because I never saw myself. I never looked inside at the truth of what I was. I just measured and judged and was there to earn and prove love, which really is not the way love is expressed or the meaning of the word. But that's how I was raised. And I had asked God, like spirit, whatever you want to call it, just in my mind, I wish I could show people what I know, because it took me a long time to get there. And I never knew. It's almost like it was right. I was sitting on a mountain of love and joy, and I was looking for it my whole life, and I never knew it was what I was, and how to turn that and how to understand that and find it in yourself and free yourself from, you know, all that overwhelming fear and anxiety. And on March 1st, 2020, a man's voice outside of my consciousness said into my right ear, "It's time to write." And I jumped out of bed. I thought there was a man in my house, and I looked around. I was like, hello. I looked in the closet in the bathroom, like really freaked out. I texted my therapist, I think I have schizophrenia. Like, that's what that means. When you hear a voice outside of yourself, that was not in my head. That was not my inner voice. And then there was no answer. And I thought, well, it's time to write. I guess I'm going to go get a journal. And I just sat down, I crossed myself, I said a prayer, and I held the pen there. And I wrote March 1st, 2020. Leave the Little Light On by Sonia Palleck. And I thought, oh, interesting. Yeah, so what? I didn't have a thought. I didn't think, oh, I'm going to write a book or a book series, or this is going to help people. And the words just came out of me quite fluidly. Athena took the great painted steps one at a time. And I thought, oh, Athena. Like, I was having conscious thoughts. And I just wrote, and I got sucked into this scene of this little girl going down these steps to get her dad across the street. And she was 3. And he backs into her. When she's trying to get its attention, he backs into her with his cigarette and inadvertently, you know, butts it out on her wrist and burns her. And when she cries out, the answer isn't, are you okay? It's what are you doing there? Like, you're okay. Stop crying. I mean, in that one moment, and when I finished writing that chapter, I just closed it. It was time to go to work, and I didn't actually know what had happened. I just thought, wow, that was intense. But I thought about that scene. I knew that was me. I knew halfway down the page, oh, this is me. I can see my house when I'm little. I can see this trauma. And this is like a synopsis of Gen X trauma. Negate your feelings, tell you didn't actually feel that way, tell you to stop crying, and then actually go further and blame you. You were somehow responsible for this trauma. You were in the wrong place at the wrong time. If you'd have known better, you wouldn't have gotten hurt. And I realized that this was some powerful message. Now, I didn't have any idea that would go on. The next day, my eyes just flew open at 4 a.m. I thought, oh my gosh, it's 4 a.m. And I had the thought this time in my head, it's time to write. And I was really confused. I thought, oh, I don't even remember what I wrote yesterday. I'd gone to work and seen 100 people, and just come home, did the groceries, like all the rest of it. I wasn't like plotting how am I going to write a book or 4 books. But I just sat down, and the pen just it just picked up where it left off. It was like magic. And this continued every day for 15 months.
Wow.
And I wrote by hand, so I didn't actually know that at the end of that 15 months, I'd written over 600,000 words.
That's incredible. Like, just trusting the process of that in itself is incredible.
And it's just to show people. I realized kind of, midway through the books, I understood a lot about what these messages were going to do, to the world, like why it was necessary that I get up every day, that I commit to doing this writing, that I allow this message to come through me, this story, because it is a story, and that's how humans learn. We learn best by stories. It's fine to go to a course and do a 10-step program and do all these things, but if you could connect to someone's story, you actually will glean so much more, because there's also the human connection. And empathy is the way in. When we can place ourselves in another's shoes, we have felt like them. You instinctively know you're connected. You know we're one. Somewhere deep inside of us, we know that. And when we plug into another human being and their experience, we amplify the feeling. And that's why you and I connect. When someone walks in your house, we're energy. And our heart magnitude is 10 times what our thought, our brain is giving off. And when our hearts connect, that energy amplifies, and you can feel it. Why it becomes safe, why you feel well, and you feel better even in the presence of this person than you did just a minute ago. That you found someone who sees you, who feels you. That's why it's a vibe.
It is a vibe. And I just want to draw attention to the fact that, maybe you did and you just haven't mentioned it, but that you just picked up that pen and started writing. You didn't let the thought process in your head go, what are you doing? Like, this is crazy. Like, why are you doing this? And maybe you had those thoughts. I imagine they came up, but that you moved forward anyway, and you let those voices become more silent, clearly, so you could write and hear this message that you were writing down on this, in this journal. Because this is what we do, right? As humans, is we have all these thoughts and beliefs in our head. And like, we talk ourselves out of things faster than we can talk ourselves, right? Like, we just keep talking ourselves out of things. We get this, like, I call them like whispers, or like little nudges. Like, we get these like, whoo, I should do that thing. And then we're like, oh my gosh, what am I, crazy? Like, no one's going to do that. No one's going to read that. No one's going to believe in me. No, or I can't do that. Or who do I think I am? Like, what, all these voices come in.
Oh yeah. And I had those.
So how, maybe even it would be helpful for our listeners to like hear from you now, after having written 4 novels, because the 4th one's coming out.
Just about. Just got published at the printers.
So how you dealt with that? What did you do for yourself in that?
It was the struggle is real. I mean, I made that sound like, I just sat down and wrote because I'm just Martha Stewart of writing. You know what I mean? It's all set up. No, I was going through it. And when I recognized it was me, I had a lot of trauma. The first book, is the trauma story. I mean, it's what frames that Gen X person in their lifetime. Our experiences become our beliefs as children. And then our beliefs as adults dictate our experiences. And so we need to follow that thread. What were my experiences that led to the beliefs, and what are the beliefs to question that are giving me my experiences today? And when I would struggle, it was with the fact that this was based on my life, this story. It was a story, and it was reading like fiction, but I could recognize everything and everyone in it. And there was a lot of pain, and there was a lot of trauma. And I thought, oh, I cannot let the world see this. I'm not going to let anybody read this. And what did 2 weeks of resistance look like? I stopped because COVID came and my office shut down for 4 months. And you'd think, oh, I'd just be able to write all day long. Carte blanche, like go to town. Now you can write these books. Why did it take you 15 months? No, the writing would only come from 4 a.m. till 5 a.m. And when I didn't do the writing, so for 2 weeks straight in the month of May, I stopped. I was refusing. I sort of got in an argument. And if you could picture me in the kitchen, I'm in my robe, never getting dressed, carrying a half-empty wine bottle around, yelling, like with a fist closed up at the ceiling, at God, like, I'm not doing this. You can't make me. Because the words would just jumble up and pile up in my head. And it would be like this noise of like a monstrous noise where I couldn't hold a thought. And then my face broke out in eczema and my eyes swelled shut at the end of 2 weeks. It came around my face like a mask. It started on my neck and it crept around my face, up over my ears, and right across my eyes in a stripe. And they swelled shut. And I said, it's like I can't see. And I was like just in turmoil over it because I just thought, I cannot let anyone read these things about me because of the shame of it. And I was reliving it as I was writing it. It was awfully painful. And then I saw a vision of the cover. I saw this cover, and I opened the book, and I saw the dedication, and it said, "For me." And it stopped me, and I thought about it as I laid there, and I thought, it's for me. I thought, it's for you, son. It's just for you to read. It's just for you to write. No one has to read it. No one's going to read it. Just write it. It's just for you to get it out of you, you see? And I said, and I made a deal. That's when I kind of made the deal. I said, okay, I'm going to do it every day. I won't miss a day, I promise, until it's done. Let me see. Like, take this off my face. And literally the next day I woke up and I could open my eyes, and the second day it was gone off my face.
Wow.
And it had reduced down to a single patch right at the base of my neck. And I would feel it every day, and I knew that it was left there like a reminder to me, and I knew that this would not go away until the last book came out. And on my birthday, on my 55th birthday that just passed, when I got the email that the fourth book was published, on the 10th, this eczema is gone. And it lived there for the last 3.5 years, like a reminder. And I knew it would. It was sort of like reminding me that I had been called, that I had this mission, and maybe that's in my head, self-imposed, but it's like, I don't believe so. I believe that there was a guide that just knows I need a little bit of a nudge that this is real. And what I believed was real my whole life, this whole, tale of like climbing, social status, things, possessions, being seen, showing, proving it, earning it. That's all not real. And what's real is love and what we are. And that when I found that, I knew I just needed, well, they think I needed a little reminder. I would itch it every day. It was itchy, and I kind of thought, I got to get these books done just so this thing will leave, get off me. And it did. And it literally did. It was like in one day, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. And I had trepidation to hit the submit button on the fourth book. I mean, these books detail everything. And Athena is not written as a hero. She's written as a human being. And as human beings, we're everything. I mean, I hate that saying these days, we are enough. I would tell everybody, never tell yourself that. It implies measurement. It implies you could be measured in some way. And there's no way that there's a threshold of once you've tipped it over the scale, you're enough. Like that's junk thinking, because there's no measuring kindness. There's no measuring compassion. How do you measure patience, imagination? Like this is creativity. How do you measure these things? A human being is limitless.
Yeah.
And you can't measure love.
No, but all those limitations have been put on us,
yes,
right?
That we believe these are ways we can be measured. And so, I mean, this was this dichotomy of the way that I was living. It's sort of like one foot in both camps. And then I had to take this step to say, not only did I write it, it was very cathartic to put it out on paper, but it took me 9 months to type it out. It took another year to get editors and edit it and paint the covers and do all these things to put these books out to the world. Is that now it became my mission. Is not only that, as I see what held me back, that idea of shame, that if someone really knew me and really knew what I was and what I had done and choices I had made, when I see the progression of the story, I'm like, that's every human being's struggle. Is that we've got to shake this. There is no such thing as shame if I don't buy into it. If I don't believe it, it doesn't exist. And this is simply me clinging to the story of fear and separation that puts me in a position of shame, because if I'm being measured, if I'm being compared, these actions and these results don't speak to the winner. They speak to a loser. And it's like, and I suffered that thinking in my whole life. It's a way of being, and but it's not the way we are. You know, it's not the reality of what love is.
Wow, it's so beautiful. Like, because I know, like, just having gone through all the personal development that I've been through and seeing myself for who I am, and like turning from all the things that I thought I wanted and thought I was supposed to do and should do and had to be and like all that stuff, also while hiding a lot of parts of myself, right? Because it wasn't good enough. It wasn't whatever enough, right? Or just like this whole comparison, right? And we've grown up in this world that everything is about achievement. Everything is about that notch and then the next notch, and we're always going for something. Yet there are so many of us out in the world that aren't feeling like we're doing anything purposeful, that there's no real meaning to our lives, that there's no reason that we're really here. Like, why am I even here? Like, I can't even tell you how many times I ask myself that. Like, why am I even here? This is silly. Like, I hide from people because I don't want them to fully see me. Yeah. Right? Like, why am I even here? Like, I feel like I can't even fully be myself. And what you're talking about is like, you came home to you and, you know, started to recognize all these patterns and all these beliefs and these things that had happened in your life. They weren't about you. They happened to you.
Yes.
But they were a product of the people around you's experience. And again, the things that they believed.
Yes.
And like, this is this cycle that repeats itself and repeats itself and repeats itself. This happened to me. It happened to you. It's happened to like probably just about everybody who's listening to this right now.
Millions
right?
and millions of people.
Yeah. And so like, but it's like a norm, right? People think that this is the norm. Like, fulfillment and happiness really can't possibly actually exist.
Right. Well, we're taught that like outwardly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as children, Gen X was very much like it was hammered into us, like life is hard.
Yeah.
Only the strong survive. You know, cry or give us something to cry about. Like, it's, you can't articulate, don't talk back, you know, or you're getting it. And I mean it. That was like a threat of physical danger. We live in fight or flight. There's no, you know, relief from it. And I believe now, I mean, that we came for fun.
I agree with you.
To have fun.
Yeah.
And what we've been doing isn't fun. And like, and I don't say this in a flippant way, but war and all that is boring. Like, I'm bored of all of this. Like, this has got to end so that we can get down to the business of what we came to do, which is enjoy this sensory experience of being a light being in a physical body.
Yeah. Instead of like, just again, the only reason war exists is because there's ego involved and comparison involved, and someone has to be better than.
Well, it's just the mind gone amok.
Yeah.
We've let the mind get on us. And then realizing when people dictate your experience, and then that creates your belief system and your mind, you become, you know, unsafe. I mean, and that's a real thing. As a child, we come forgetting. That's the game. We forget what we are. We are love. And the whole purpose is to remember that here and to rediscover this and like unlock the, you know, the golden heart. It's sort of like, that's what you are. You're sitting on it. That journey inward, though, is terrifying.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people choose not to do it.
Terrifying. And not just choose not to do it, you're going to run hard in the other direction.
Yeah.
You're going to numb with anything you got. And I'm a famous number, like, in 18 ways. And this is what I think the books do, is they simply let you walk and hold Athena's hand. They're written in the present tense. There's never any foreshadowing or jumping back in the time frame. So it's actually teaching you to be in the now. And that's why people get obsessed with the books, because they have to know what happens next. Because we really, like I was saying, we champion this little underdog because that's who we relate to. We know what lives in us, and we want them to overcome. We want them to succeed, to get to the pinnacle. We're rooting for them, but nobody knows it. They just live deep in us, and we're like, come on, you can do it.
Hey, I'm just going to interrupt this episode right here for a second, because I want to invite you to join me in the Joy Project community. It's a place where me and a sisterhood of women are building meaningful connections with each other, where we don't feel the need to hold back or put on our best face. We just show up as we are. It's a place to be encouraged to say the things out loud, to build your confidence, to learn about yourself, and learn how to lean into your authenticity. It might be time for you to consider joining us. If you're feeling the pull for deeper connections, you want to have more honest conversations, and find a place you belong simply by being you. We meet online every week, and we host an in-person social once every few months within the Waterloo region. So if you're feeling the pull to be a part of a group of women who are leaning in to focus on the good, to see life with a half cup full perspective and lifting each other up, this just might be what you've been looking for. Learn more and join us by visiting itsmechristined.ca/community. I really can't wait to see you in there.
That's that little voice to keep going, to continue on, to take the next step. And we want that so bad. And that book series is simply to allow you to go on this terrifying journey with a little girl. You're going to walk next to her, and you're going to feel what she feels, and you're going to reconnect to the idea that your heart is her heart. You felt this. You told yourself a story. Maybe it was similar and maybe it wasn't, but you've told yourself these stories, and you'll see how her stories lead to the next step she takes. No human being goes into their endeavors thinking, this is going to be an epic fail. This is going to humiliate me. This is going to lead to just disaster and consequences.
Yeah.
No, we sort of go into it with high hopes, like this will be better, and then it's not. But what you're basing your next step on is where you came from.
Right.
And this is why it's really important to know, who have you been? You yourself have to understand your own self from the start, of who have I been, and what have I learned, and what have I accepted, and what have I rejected, and what stories have been told to me, and what stories have I told myself, and how is it going to affect the next step that I take? And if we never self-reflect, if we never self-examine, we simply are going to go with the next message that's given to us. And as a collective, that message is one of fear and separation. It is one of lack of empathy, of not seeing others, because we do not see ourselves in that. We don't hold the power to change it. It's sort of this acceptance of it's just the way it is.
Right. Well, again, then that's another belief that has been, out there, like this poison that has crept into all of our minds, that, it's the reason that I was drawn and pulled to do this podcast. Is why it's called Say It Out Loud, because, I think the more that we realize that others have lived our story, or a very similar version of our story, maybe the characters are slightly different, maybe the instances are slightly different, but a lot of the storyline is the same. And a lot of that shame and guilt and the feelings of not being enough, or not, being what we thought we should be, or all these things. It's the more we can connect with other people's stories, the more we can find that center of their heart, the more we can connect, the more we realize we're not alone, but we're made to feel alone.
Yes.
Right? Look at everything that has happened in the world in the last few years. You're telling me everything has pushed us away from each other.
Yes. Shame is a really big component, because shame is one that comes from childhood. Shame is sort of the original house that a child will put themselves into when things are not, when literally someone's telling you why were you there? You know, they don't know what to make sense of this because they can no longer trust that, you know, their eyes, they saw this cigarette just back into me. They saw, you know, they were just trying to get someone's attention and it hurt, but can they trust that it actually hurt because they're being told that didn't hurt? They want to cry to express their feelings, but they're being told you don't cry, or I'll give you something to cry about. You shouldn't have been there. And they get angry with that because their confusion. We don't have, you know, we haven't had enough life experience and we're just raw and super vulnerable. And so right at that moment, that anger turns inward because it has nowhere to go. And what happens is a child will say, like, to themselves, you did that. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have been there. Stop crying. And we become believing that we are unworthy of love. The first book I made a bookmark for, and it says, shake what your trauma gave you. And it's also because it is a trigger for people. When it triggers shame in you, you have shame. Shame is something that we carry, and it's truly one of the most detrimental to us. It is a blanket that we put on ourselves that we are unworthy of love. We literally step away from our center. And the center is where you live in your heart. It's that whole energy, that just the column of energy that runs through us. It's our field. It's everything. It's our life force. And when we step out of that golden light because we are ashamed that you didn't love us, you didn't accept us, we showed up and we were rejected, we were abandoned, we were abused, and then you say to yourself, it's impossible that they don't love me. I'm not good enough, you know, and I'll change. I'll be better. I won't do that. I'll make sure I don't make that mistake again. And you start to be vigilant and punishing, and you remove yourself from your center so that you can observe, and so that you're never there again, that's the shame of that. Like, well,
because you were taught not to trust who you really are. And you were taught not to trust your intuition.
Right. And if anyone saw what you really were, they wouldn't love you.
Right.
Because the people who were there to love us weren't being loving.
Right. But also because, and as you and I even talked about before, having this conversation in this space, is that they weren't taught either, right? It's like we were taught these lessons, and this, you know, Gen X sort of way of doing things has continued to carry on. There are many people out there still holding this torch of this is the way that it is. This is the way it's just is what it is, right? Yes. And I just, it's so, I feel like it's so disheartening that we've been so pulled away from who we are from such a very young age, right? Yeah. Like led to doubt ourselves, led to doubt who we are and what we're here for and what comes naturally, right? It's like you watch a child like come to life when something as good is happening, and then, you know, seeing or knowing or feeling and having that, remembering that experience for yourself, being like, I was so excited, then I was shut down.
Yes, but that's part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, Christine, because I see it like this. Like I think of the letter X. And I see the point in the middle of it. And I see the energy coming up and then that pivot. We are the pivot. We are the point where the energy comes to that point and then it opens up into a chalice. We pivoted. We stopped. A lot of us were able to just simply absorb that trauma, pivot, and stop it. And that says a lot about us. It is not by mistake that our generation is so specifically this, that we've had abuse from parents, and now we're having abuse from the younger generations who want to turn back and say, you know, we should be ashamed of ourselves, actually like shaming us for being the way that we are, in ways that we are, rather than supportive. It's sort of like we are light beings and we came to do this, and because we went through what we went through, we will create the greatest generation with the capacity to love that the world's ever seen. And that is no mistake. That is a celebration that's about to launch. And there's so many of us, because as soon as you hear this, you know that you are like being, you are drawn to it. Your energy is drawn to it. It speaks truth. It ignites a fire in your belly. It starts your heart beating fast. You feel the blood rush through you, up the back of your neck, straight up to your pineal gland, where you're like just opening up at the top to the connection to source, because you're saying yes. Your soul is screaming, yes, it's my time. This is the time for this generation to simply embody their love, that their being, and to do this work. And if there is a generation that can go on a terrifying journey inward, it's ours. There is nothing that we cannot do. There is nothing that we have not shouldered. We have walked alone in loneliness, in despair, contemplating suicide, wanting to know, what am I here for? What is life all about? We are deep, soulful beings as a generation. We are a source of light for the world. And it takes that depth of darkness to know the height of bliss, to bring the light of love out. And that's what we're here to do. And I call on all of us to say, in the end, you're going to see the reasoning behind all of it. It stretched us to our limits to prepare us for this walk inward now. This is the point when people hit their life crisis and all that business. No, ours is one of self-discovery. Ours is one of inward, because we never went outward. We understand others. We have tight pulled in boundaries inward. And we've avoided that journey, but now it's about to, now it's on. I mean, now it's about to go down. And I'm excited. I'm on this side sort of saying, come on over. It is a beautiful 80s dance party over here. You need to come into your light. You need to get with the dance and the song program, and you need to celebrate you for the end of your days and really show the world, what we came for was fun. And we're all about it. I mean, I haven't hardly met anybody that isn't just this beautiful soul, but looking for that first step up. It's like, take that journey. Go inside. You can do it.
Well, and it's like, we're called to do this work, right? And oftentimes, I know for me, it was like, oh, no, like, that's just too hard. I don't want to go there, right? Like, or, oh, no, if I even think about that thing, I'm going to cry, and I don't want to cry. Or if I, talk that thing out loud, then it's going to spur all this stuff. And I'm not really ready to deal with all that stuff. And the truth is that it is like, almost like a never ending work, right? It is never ending to do this like personal work and start pulling on that string and like start looking a little bit deeper. But the beautiful thing is that once you look at it, once you release it, it no longer owns you. It doesn't have the power over you, right? And it's like, you can start to just live and be with more of who you are than trying to keep up with all this stuff. Like most people are walking around with so much weight on their shoulders. I mean, you can feel it. I actually talked about this in my more recent podcast episode, is like, you can feel people's trauma on the road. You're driving, you can watch it happening, right? Like the aggression that people have, with
the anger, but they're suffering. This is what so many people are suffering. You have to feel it to heal it.
That's right.
And that's seriously, like, the book's great, Radical Empathy, so that you can feel it with this girl as she's feeling it. Yeah. And you're healing it as you're going along, because you recognize, like, you can have this ugly cry while you're reading this book, but it's actually about something that happened to you. And go for it, because that you're going to help release that. As soon as it's like going through it. As soon as you feel it, you heal it, and you can release it. And then there's another one and another one and another one. And you think, oh my God, this is a bottomless pit. I'm never getting out of this.
Well, it does sometimes feel like that. But the thing is
a bottom.
There is, like, I think the thing is too, that, I talk about this all the time. It's like, I used to feel shame going to a movie theater and watching a movie and crying in public, like feeling like, oh my gosh, like, people are looking at me, they're going to know I'm emotional. Like, what? Right. And so to come to a point, especially, I remember, and I'll just leaning into story, during the pandemic, I mean, I was falling apart. My business was like, I wasn't allowed to operate my business. I was alone. I'm an extrovert. I love to be with people. Like, there were so many things that were like forcing me to just feel. I think for a lot of us, forcing us to feel or go inside or like look differently. Right. And it's like, that whole time in our lives really sucked a lot for a lot of us. But also I think it was really good for a lot of us, because it forced us to look inside. Right. Yes. And for me, it was like, I got into the habit of crying. I got into the habit of releasing how frustrated I was. I got into the habit of like recognizing how I was feeling. I'd be like, oh, I feel sad today, but like, why? Like, nothing's happened. And then I'm like, well, that might be why I'm sad. And then it just caused me to like go further down that line and keep crying, and then sharing those tears with other people, being like, there's nothing wrong with crying. Right. No. So it's like, but through that experience and through not only me experiencing it and feeling through it, but then also sharing those feelings with others. And then when people would see me cry and I'd be in their company, they would be like, oh my gosh, are you trying to save you? Right. Yeah. I'd say, you don't need to save me. These tears are for me to release.
Yes.
And if you're not feeling feelings, and if you're not releasing in the way that feels right for you to release, then you're still holding on to all that stuff. Yes. You're not here to save me.
Yes.
I'm here to save me.
Well, and I would say you don't need saving.
Fair enough. Good. Absolutely. Thank you for catching that language. But it's like,
because we do think that we need saving,
right.
And whether someone saves you or you save you, you're not failing and you're not dying. You don't need saving. You're exactly in the moment as you need to be.
Yeah, that's true.
So when we're struggling, yes, because we're caught in a wave, like, and we're being tossed around. That's what else? You're supposed to be in a perfect form all the time? No. Because sometimes we're in the froth and we're being rolled around. Like we have to, like it says, go with the flow. Sometimes the water's smooth and sometimes it's choppy, and we just have to allow. The whole shame portion, is really important to me, because especially in the first book, because she's a small child, we follow Athena from the age of 3 till 18. And I say to people, why shake what you're traumatized? It says, shake your shame. You have to step into your light. You've got to hold and heal your inner child. Articulate what it is that you're ashamed of. This is especially hard to say it out loud to yourself in the mirror on your own. Okay, you don't got to say it to anybody, but say it out loud. You will see where you are blocked. You will see what is it to you if you just say it out loud. You'll start to see. Now, you as an adult looking at your little self saying what you're ashamed of, have your adult self reassure your reflection. You are loved. You're safe. You're with me now. You're fine. Keep judgment away. Okay, there is no right or wrong. It's not good or bad.
There's not one way.
No, it's just the way it is. Yeah. However you are, you're the perfect you.
Yeah.
And embrace your experiences. Every experience that led me to be where I'm sitting in the kitchen studio at the Sunshine Island. I am so freaking grateful for it. Yeah. Because I feel peace. And what I always searched for was that true love, happily ever after. I was after it. I mean it, like the princess tale. I was all about it. My story was going to end like this. And when it didn't, I thought, well, this can't be love then. Because if love ends like this isn't it. And I just thought, there's got to be another in. And what it did left me alone, like burned to the ground, like to look inward and to say what's in there. And what I realized was, it's not true love, happily ever after. It's one love, peacefully ever after. Because the princess tale is a selective tale. We watched on screens when the prince turned his nose up to the first 500 girls, and I thought, well, I look more like that one. I'm goofy and like not graceful, and he doesn't want her. I don't even look like this one. How am I going to be the princess? How am I going to be the one they pick? How am I going to be enough? Right? Where does that enough come from? When I don't realize I am everything. I'm everything that made me. I am a perfect recipe of me. There is not too much or too little. It is by design, this vessel. And that is the only border that I see in the world that's valid. The border that surrounds this body is the one I honor. And if everyone honored that in others, never to cross that border without your permission, because it houses your divine light. You are the ruler, the empress, the sovereign of this space, and you are a universe unto yourself. You are not in a group with anyone else. You are not, and I can't punch this, kick this, take from it. I can't rape you. I can't kill you. I honor this border. Then imagine the world. How we would roam free, how we could have words but never fear that, you would be removed from your vessel, controlled, subjugated, punished in ways just for having opinions or stories or thoughts, how freeing that would be. And I would put that out to the world, like in this podcast, because I think that's a lovely thought, And I think that vessel that houses you as I look at you and I think, what a gorgeous being you are. And this is so divine, this recipe. There's never been another you. And your light filtering through you is creating this gorgeous connection, this energy. And it's if everyone could see this, if you could see this, that's what I always think to people when they look down at themselves and they say, oh, I hate this, I don't like this, I wish I wasn't this. And I'm like, you don't realize your vessel, it's not for measuring and criticizing and comparing, it's for being. You have your 5 senses. It's absolutely magical. You're in a realm where you can eat and breathe and touch and smell and taste. And I mean, when we fly out of these little suits we call bodies, we won't have that ability anymore. And we're here and we have an abundance of just everything to tantalize us with, and we decide to hate on it. And that is truly the definition of madness. And yet I lived like that most times because that princess tale led me down that path until I realized that one love is for everyone. One love is when I choose me and this light, because that light is your light. And I am you and you are me. And when I see this, I see you. And when I love myself, and love is unconditional acceptance, I accept you unconditionally as you are, without judgment. And so and you're safe. And this is the beauty of love, that it goes with me. I don't earn it. I don't receive it in the way that it's parceled out like an exchange. I simply am, and I'm with you, and in your presence, that love is amplified. And this is like such a gorgeous experience of being here.
This has been a really amazing conversation. Thank you for sharing, your heart with us, some of your experience with us, and for bringing me your book, which I can't wait to read. I haven't even obviously read it yet. We've just been introduced more recently. And I'm so honored that your energy drew you to connect. And you were drawn to being here in this kitchen around Sunshine Island to have this conversation. And, I want to share with anybody who's listening, like this idea of like leaning into more of who we are, this idea of, creating self-love for ourselves and going down that path. It might be a fairly long one. It's going to start with small little things, and it's like, I think it's easy for us that that's a wrong word. When we have come to this point and you and I can have this conversation and we can share what it feels like to be, a more healed version of ourselves and a version of ourselves that we love more. And we still fight the demons, right? We still fight those little voices in our heads. We still fight all of that stuff. It doesn't fully go away. It's not like we're sitting here saying, just love yourself and you're never going to have those thoughts again. Those thoughts have been in your mind and in your body for your entire life.
Yes.
They're always going to be there to some extent. I believe we're always going to have those things that trigger us, those things that remind us that we have a little bit more work to do, but it's reminding us to keep coming home to ourselves. And when we stop and we just start taking care of us, it's like these little dribs and drabs of like, oh, I can change that. Or, oh no, you know what? I'm not going to go to that event because I actually don't really feel like it. And I'm feeling like I should stay home tonight, listening and honoring that. It's like just following the little signals and the little hints inside of you that are going to draw you to the right things.
Yes.
And they're going to draw you to the right people. They're going to draw you to the right conversations. They're going to maybe introduce you to this conversation on this podcast, right?
Yes.
Like all these little nudges that like, that's your intuition. That's what we were born with. That's what was sort of like, pushed out of us from a really young age, taught to us to not listen to, but to listen to me instead, right? It's like, when we start to listen to those little nudges, we start to make our way on our journey, and all of our journeys look a little bit different,
yes.
right?
Yes.
I mean, maybe a lot different.
Everyone's at a different place in
right?
the journey.
And the thing is, there is no right or wrong way to do it. There is no one way or another. It's like, what drives me crazy is people are like, follow these 10 steps no, there are no fucking steps. Okay. You just gotta follow what's in you and trust yourself. right?
Yes,
Right. Right.
And you just become like you.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of it is to lose judgment on yourself, to just start accepting and to practice acceptance, to really listen closely to your inner voice, who's probably a critic because you adopted it from someone who's had a lot to say to you, and to change that discussion to being one of support and love. That if you wouldn't speak those words out loud to your child or to your bestie, then you don't talk like that to you either.
Right.
And then you learn, and really and truly the last page of it is probably going to be forgiveness, because where you come to the understanding that you actually are the power, and you had the power to leave, you had the power to change the channel all along, you had the power to just have fun, but you didn't know that. Then you say, you know what, I'm sorry, and then accept that, because that's loving. And that's being love. And what I think, I mean, what we came to do and to enjoy this experience and to light one another up is to say that there is no end. We're just going through. It's like a merry-go-round. I mean, we're on one circuit here, and then we're going to get off. The ride stops, we get off. And we're not. There's not like a destination, like, oh, I've arrived and now I'm done.
Right. But that's what we believe. We're led to believe that. We're led to believe, oh, I'm going to achieve this thing, and then it'll be great. So I'm going to get that relationship, or I'm going to have those kids, or I'm going to get that job, or I'm going to.
I think that's the sort of what disheartens a lot of people is when they do get there, they find it's empty. It wasn't what was promised.
Right.
And it's sort of like, well, and it's not, because there's nothing there. You don't need to earn it or prove it. You just need to be. You were everything the day you landed. You were everything and are everything.
Yeah.
And you couldn't be less if you tried.
Yeah.
I mean, you might believe it, like your story is this, in your mind playing like a broken record, that you're a loser and you're not enough and all this. That's just what you're believing. Like it's like a brainwashing lie. And I mean, I can see that in people, and they're suffering as a result of it simply because I've walked that path. I understand. And my heart goes out to any human walking that path, because we suffer there. And that's the purpose of my journey now, is simply to advocate for love, which is what we are. And to say, wake up, let's dance, let's sing, let's love, let's be.
Yeah.
And, be joy, be love.
Yeah. And have some fun, and just, embrace the fact that we're only here for a short period of time. Right.
And when is it going to be for us? It's now. And that's what I say. Like, the time is now.
Yeah.
And it's our time. And I celebrate everybody and everything. And I tell everybody this, just everyone's mantra should be all is well, because it is. Love is coming to get us, whether we want to go from here or not. We're all going home together, and love conquers all.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
Sonia.
Christine.
If people want to find you, find your books, find you and follow along and connect in any way, how would they find you, and where should they go?
So I have a website, soniapalleck.com. My books are just started kind of populating bookstores at Indigo in London, Masonville. They are for sale on Amazon. 1, 2, and 3 are available. 4 will be listed shortly. And I'm on Instagram, Sonia Palleck, Facebook, and TikTok. And that's, shout out to anybody who follows me. And I love hearing from readers. I love getting feedback. Readers have so much, I want to use the word obsession, but like questions, any book club that wants to, take up my book, please contact me. And I would love to populate, 10, 20, 30 people with this book. And because there's so much to unpack, there's so much to discuss about us. It's just riveting, really, all of it. And people are right into it. And I feel the momentum of it. I feel people, really getting into it, and I'm excited.
Awesome. And you're showing them by leaning into yourself. It's like, again, coming back to you, when we shine the light on ourselves and we show up for ourselves and we love on ourselves, we start to light this path around us, and love just continues to go, right? It's like we attract more of it. We attract more good. We start to see more good, like all the things, right? And yeah, it allows you to put on some rose-colored glasses, because that's really where we're meant to be. I believe it's like,
where we put our energy is where we put our attention.
Yeah.
And I would say, to my team and to my patients, put your attention on love. Because if what you want to draw into your life is love and light, put your attention there. Mm-hmm. Yes, there are dark things happening in the world, but if all your attention is going to despair and Armageddon, I mean, that's what is coming down the pipeline for you. And that's really how the energy works. And you can see this in the world, sort of this split, this dichotomy of things, this multiverse that's happening right now. And that's real. I mean, all the physicists and researchers and everybody's talking about what's happening right now to the matter, to the physical realm of this energy, this matrix that we live in. And it's like this manifestation that we're a holographic energetic representation of our thoughts. Put your attention on love, on being
because
love.
Look at the result of hate.
Yes.
War is the result of hate.
Well, war is the result of fear.
Well, which is also connected to hate, right?
I feel like hate gets this bad rap, like there's this, hate is the source. Fear and suffering is so much more of it. Like, I feel like, and that gives us compassion towards people. It's easy to hate the haters, but it's sort of like, do people really hate? But I think might be again those few, but most people are in fear.
Yeah, but I think that the people connect more with that word, that hate. Like, they don't understand that they're in fear.
Yes.
So they connect with the word hate, which is likely why that word came through me.
Yes.
It's like we connect with the word hate. We don't realize that it's fear, because, we talk about this all the time in my Joy Project community. It's like, what does fear show up like? It doesn't mean I'm like, I'm scared. Like, it doesn't always mean that. It shows up in a variety of ways. It shows up in anxiety. It shows up in aggression. It shows up in, all these different ways. And, but like that word hate, it's like that is what's showing up in the world. It looks like hate. Yeah. That's how the fear is showing up.
There's a scene in the book where my mother says to Athena, like the mama says to Athena, you don't hate anything, because it takes your energy to hate, and just tells it to her, because when we do that, it does put our attention, our energy goes to that vibe. And that's why I say, like, it's very important that people are aware of where their thoughts are and where their attention is focused. And when you are in the present moment, on your breathing, on your connection, on your body, on your wellness, on your heart, on your light, on your inner voice, on you, this isn't selfish. It's a way of being that will create harmony and peace in the world. So if what we want is peace and harmony in the world, we must be the change.
Be the peace and harmony.
Be the change. Those are wise words spoken by, Gandhi.
Yeah.
I mean, so those are the beacons that we follow.
Yeah, it's so true. Well, I know that you and I could probably sit here and chat all day.
8 hours later.
So we'll have to have you back another time in the future. And I can't wait to read your book. And I hope that our listeners will consider picking it up.
I hope the whole world does.
And of course, I will put all the information on how to find Sonia in the show notes, so you can go and check her out and get connected with her in whatever way you feel drawn to. And otherwise, I just want to, first of all, thank listeners for sitting and absorbing this conversation and putting your heart into it. Hey, whatever you picked up for you in this moment, that was for you. And whatever you want to leave, that's okay to leave, right? You're on your own journey. You got to pick up what's right for you and leave behind what's not. But there's lots of good happening here. There's lots of great following you, Sonia. I can't wait to see what comes of all of this. And thank you for showing true leadership. It's like a leader to me is somebody who doesn't try to show up like that. It's like, we're just doing it because it's what's in us to do. We want to help others create something new, or in this case, generate more love. So I just love that for you. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with us.
Thank you, Christine.
And thanks to our listeners. I hope that you have an amazing day and that you let the love shine on. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to this episode. I'd like to invite you to hit the follow button on this podcast so you'll be notified when the next one drops. And if you liked this episode, please leave a review, as it will help others to find this message. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at It's Me, Christine D. Or if you'd like to connect about being a guest on the show, ask me about group or one-on-one joy and mindset coaching, learn more about the Joy Project community, or consider hiring me for your next speaking engagement, please visit itsmechristined.ca. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.